The fighters of the 425th Skala Battalion of the Ukrainian Armed Forces have captured 32 Russian soldiers in one of the settlements. The occupiers, seeing that resistance was futile against the Ukrainian fighters, threw down their weapons and surrendered. The prisoners stated that they had been forced into the Russian army and regretted their decision. The captured occupiers expressed their gratitude to the Ukrainian fighters for sparing their lives and taking them as prisoners.
Лише за один тиждень бійці 425-го полку на різних напрямках взяли в полон 32 окупанта. Тепер вони жаліються, як не хотіли воювати, як командири їх кинули, і як їм страшно.
Я из 8 человек дошел до точки только один. Я видел, как моих друзей разрывало на куски. Они до сих пор мне снятся.
Самое страшное – это смерть, не вернуться домой, не увидеть маму, не увидеть сына.
Я пошел в военкомат подписывать контракт с целью вернуть водительское удостоверение. Сейчас думаю, что лучше бы почтальоном служил, на велосипеде ездил.
Меня на протяжении недели пытали, чтобы я подписал контракт. В это время я находился в СИЗО.
Когда мы сдались в плен, мы не пожалели ни на секунду, то, что мы сделали этот выбор.
Нам говорили за вас, то, что, блядь, вы такие все хуёвые, блядь, там. Как, ну еще я даже не знаю. А вот увидел все своими глазами, по-другому стало.
Из 20 человек. Дошло, может быть, человек 5, ну пусть 10 даже, пусть даже 10, и те 300-е.
Меня обманули, короче, наебали и объебали. Поедешь, Валера, на стройку. Ну, на стройку так на стройку. И вот такая у меня стройка.
Выжило вообще не знаю сколько. Все без вести пропавшие.
Страшно видеть, как ребята погибают мучительной смертью из-за какого-то придурка в Кремле.
За месяц от нашей роты осталось 2 человека.
Спасибо ВСУ 425-му полку за то, что сохранили жизнь. Глубоко раскаялись в тяжких преступлениях против украинского народа.
The situation inside the Russian army is deteriorating. Russian soldiers at the front are increasingly trying to evade orders that they perceive as mortally dangerous. The British magazine The Economist reports, citing intercepted soldier communications. According to the publication, the fighters are finding ways to stall for time and inventing excuses not to go into battle. At the same time, they avoid open disobedience. Rather, it is a passive form of sabotage. Ukrainian military confirms that poorly trained, mobilized troops are most often sent to suicide assaults, and more experienced forces are only involved when the advance is successful. The commander of the artillery unit of the 241st Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Vladislav Pinchuk, told the magazine that in the Zaporizhia direction, the Russians are experiencing a shortage of personnel and an increasing lack of motivation among those who remain. The situation is aggravated by the widespread use of drones. According to The Economist, any approach to the front line at a distance of less than 2 kilometers is tantamount to a death sentence. Already now, a zone of 15 kilometers on either side of the front line is considered dangerous. In these conditions, Ukrainian fighters go underground. Operations are increasingly carried out from protected bunkers. The publication also notes that in the coming year, both sides will most likely increase the use of medium-range drones, which will expand the risk zone to 60 kilometers or more from the front line. Despite high losses, Russia increased the pace of its advance in the summer. However, by the end of July, the pace of advance had slowed. According to The Economist, from May the 1st to early July, about 31,000 Russian soldiers died at the front, a record number for the entire war. Recall the 247th Airborne Assault Regiment of the Russian Occupation Army, which is stationed in the temporarily occupied part of the Zaporizhia region, has seen a large number of desertions. According to Ukrainian partisan movement Atesh, forcibly mobilized Ukrainians from the temporarily occupied Crimea, as well as from the temporarily occupied areas of the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions, serve in the 247th Airborne Assault Regiment of the Occupation Army of the Russian Federation. They do not want to fight against their country, against Ukraine. That is why they are fleeing the occupation Russian army. The Atesh movement also reported that servicemen of the Russian occupation army often end up on the lists of deserters because their documents disappear after being sent to the hospital. In this case, the officers' occupiers usually immediately talk about unauthorized abandonment of the unit. Doctors of the Russian occupation army do not specify where the serviceman is. Atesh called on Ukrainians who were forcibly taken into the Russian occupation army to evade service and go over to the other side of the Ukrainian partisans. In the Rostov region, residents have encountered massive disruptions to the mobile internet. People cannot log into online maps, access banking applications, or transfer salaries, the Telegraph reports. Russian authorities claim that they have good reasons for such restrictions, but in reality, everything points to panic. Fear of Ukrainian drone strikes. As it turned out on the night of August the 5th, a Ukrainian UAV attacked a strategically important railway station in Rostov. As a result, the facilities through which the occupiers were transporting fuel for their army were destroyed. This was the second attack in a row, and it was successful again. After such strikes, Russians began to have their mobile internet disconnected more often. However, Moscow's attempt to improve security may prove ineffective. As experts explain, drones can indeed use mobile networks for navigation, but even without them, UAVs are capable of finding targets via other communication channels or even operating autonomously. This is becoming the new norm. Yet the Kremlin is also betting on information isolation. According to a local resident, no notifications of outages come. The connection simply disappears. This is becoming the new norm, she says. According to the analysis of the independent digital project Na Sviazi, in July alone, 2,099 cases of internet shutdowns were recorded in Russia. This is 3 times more than in June and almost 30 times more than in May. And restrictions are being introduced not only in border regions, but also thousands of kilometers from the front. Experts note that the Kremlin uses such measures not only to combat drones. Under the guise of security, the authorities are actually strengthening control over citizens and restricting access to independent information. At the same time, shutdowns occur chaotically. There is no logic in the choice of regions or time. Residents are dissatisfied with the current situation. There are even opinions that this move could lead to an internet uprising in Rostov. Earlier, media reported that Moscow had previously disconnected the internet for Russians, including restrictions on the operation of the network that even affected the Far East. Mobile internet shutdowns in Russia are becoming common practice. In Murmansk, in addition to problems with the internet, the authorities have also restricted the operation of cellular communications. In Krasnoyarsk Krai, the local operator Orion Telecom complained about a large-scale DDoS attack.